The title of the Flemish series Gevoel, voor, Tumor, which is translated Sense of Tumor, struck me by surprise. Is this really a show that makes fun of cancer? The casual tone of the story and its trendy atmosphere first set me on the wrong track, but I learned rather quickly that in fact the series has a completely different character than your typical sitcom. Tristan de Vriend, a senior medical student, is ready to make his dream come true to become a neurosurgeon when he's confronted himself with the bad news a doctor so often has to deliver to patients: youth cancer. In the opening scene of the series, we learn about the basic rules of delivering bad news. First, make the patient feel at ease. Second, be empathic. And third, state clearly what is going to happen to him. In the auditorium of the university, future doctors can make fun of these rules, but what happens when this is about you? That's what Tristan discovers as he recognizes the 3 steps in the doctor's announcement to him. Nothing funny about that. Gevoel, voor, Tumor had me crying more than it had me laughing. So, why the reference to humour in the title? Enter Hanne. First someone Tristan bumps into, quite literally. Then the annoying neighbour in the hospital room. But in the end, the love of his life. Hanne owns an online knitting company, Witty Nitty. She knits wool hats. What kind of a chick would spend time knitting? Why would you? It's a granny complex, isn't it? Tristan snarls at Hanne when she plays Rummikub with him in the hospital. Actually, because her grandfather forced her to. Why Hanne knits wool hats we discover with Tristan some episodes later. Not coincidentally, the episode The Proud Dr. de Vriend loses his hair. Before she died, Hanne's grandmother used to knit a wool hat each time her young grandchild stayed over because her parents were out on a business trip. Whenever Hanne would ask her grandmother when her parents would be back, the answer was, when this wool hat is finished. But one day, Hanne's parents die in a plane crash, and the wool hat never gets finished. So the knitting of these hats is a very meaningful act for Hanne. It reminds her of the warm and soothing presence of her grandmother. It recalls the joy of expecting to see her parents again. And it confronts her with the pain of loss, both of her parents and her grandmother. The significance even becomes bigger when Tristan asks her to create a wool hat for him too. This hat, full of symbolic meaning, introduces the humour the title is referring to. A leather patch on the hat Tristan gets from Hanne reads Team Tumor. And this hat is the first of a series, for other patients on the oncology floor are interested in the hats too. And every hat has another inscription: Chemotional, Tomorrowland, yes we can, sir. That's the context of our title, Sense of Tumor. And there's more. A couple of episodes later, there is a new layer added. The volunteers participating in the search for a donor for Tristan wear a wool hat with the inscription Friends of de Vriend. Tristan's name is de Vriend and it means the friend in Dutch. In a sense, Hanne's hats are the main characters of this series. Or better still, the heart of the story is what the hats communicate. Whether it's the nostalgic link to loved ones who've passed away, of the passionate love between partners, or the connection with people suffering from the same disease, or with people trying to help those in need, the hats are an image of the most beautiful thing on earth: staying together, for better and for worse. Like the humorous inscriptions, the hats have relativizing power. No, they don't want to neglect the suffering that comes with the illness. The cancer patient's suffering is never minimized. Moreover, the testimonies of actual young patients at the end of every episode enhance the sense of reality of the series, making sure the viewer understands this is not a romantic story, but a confrontation with life as it is. What then is the relativizing message the Hats want to bring? They remind us that there is more than suffering alone. They introduce beauty into one of the most painful environments of our society. And that's not only a sign of deep wisdom, it's at the same time the heart of the Christian faith. Jesus' most famous speech is called the Sermon on the Mount. One of the first things he says there sounds somewhat peculiar. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Jesus says that the people who are in pain are the lucky ones. Weird, isn't it? This is a so-called beatitude. It's a common thing in old texts. No less than today, 2,000 years ago, people were searching for happiness and fulfillment in their lives. Wisdom teachers of all sorts were happy to provide them with tips. Think of a typical parental advice as, just make sure you have a degree first. Or think of the time around New Year's when we wish one another health, because that's the main thing in life. In biblical times, this advice would sound like this. Blessed the people who have a degree, because they will earn plenty. Blessed those who are healthy, because they will enjoy life. That's the wisdom Tristan is filled with at the beginning of the series. He's about to earn one of the highest degrees possible, and at the same time he's fully enjoying life. At his sickbed, his sister admits that she's often cursed him as a child. I had this feeling, she said, when is that infinite luck of his going to end? You were so annoyingly perfect. In spite of his infinite luck and his annoying perfection, you can ask yourself whether Tristan has ever encountered true happiness, though. Look at his love life. Tristan is a player. In the first episode, a girl he spent the night with asks him, "When am I going to see you again?" His reply is tough. He describes love as a chemical process and adds, "But the problem is that eventually the process is stopped in your body. So why keep seeing each other, don't you think?" And happily, he continues his search for the next hookup. This is a man who would have a good laugh with a wisdom like, "Blessed are those who mourn." But then he gets sick, and slowly but surely has to let go of everything. He isn't the rugby star he used to be. Gradually he understands that he will not become a neurosurgeon. He has to learn to be dependent on others. And the treatment affects his sexual potency and his fertility. No more perfection. So, bye-bye happiness. Blessed those who mourn, for they will be comforted, a master of wisdom proclaimed 2,000 years ago. Even when the original dreams are shattered, there is a road to happiness. And it's to be found in solidarity, in love. Not the romantic, erotic relationship you hear about in soggy love ballads. No, love as it presents itself in Hannah's wool hats. The warm memory of beloved people who've passed away. The loyal help of family and friends. The charitable commitment of people with a good heart. And also the unconditional care of a person that says, "I love you." Gevoel, voor, Tumor tells the story of a process of transformation. In the series, Tristan becomes a new person. As a matter of fact, it's telling that this process starts as we are witnessing the baptism of Tristan's nephew. Like a baptism that is the start of a lifelong road to becoming an adult in Christianity, the news of his being sick will be the start of Tristan's journey through a completely new life. And the most important lesson to learn is not medical, but relational. When Tristan finds out there is a cancer recurrence, first, of course, he's really down about it, but then he's confronted with an even greater challenge. Hannah is presented with the opportunity to take her knitting company to the next level, but she turns it down. She wants to focus on Tristan. Now, it's one thing to let go of your own dreams, but it's something completely different to accept that others let go of theirs because of you. That's the reason Tristan breaks up with Hannah. He yells, "I can't take it anymore that you are fucking up your future just to clean up my vomit." And he starts pretending that Hannah never was more than a hookup. Inspired once again by her grandfather, Hannah takes a last shot of restoring the relationship. But a weakened Tristan argues that he will never be the same anymore. Hannah's reply is a good synthesis of the series. "I hope so, because the Tristan I first met in my grandfather's hospital room was a smug, arrogant jerk. But I've seen how you've changed into the Tristan I fell in love with." Right before she walks away, because Tristan doesn't react, she stammers, "I don't recognize you anymore." So, which Tristan prevails in the end? With his last energy, the young man gets out of his isolation room, trying to get Hannah's attention as she walks away. Stumbling through the hospital corridor, he's an image of a completely weak and powerless man. But never in the series he shows more strength than right at that moment. The strength of a human being that allows himself to be embraced. The strength of a man who says sorry. The strength of a love that is willing to completely surrender. Every person has the vocation to enter into this journey in life. We too. But hopefully we don't need to end up in an oncology department before this process starts. And all the people who do have to go through this ordeal, I wish them a neighbor like Hannah's grandfather, a supportive family like Tristan's, and a Hannah who relativizes even the most dark moments and reveals that in the end there is something more important: love.